I've heard a lot of good Appalachian Hank stories in my day, but have you ever heard the one about a West Virginia spirit who actually solved their own murder case? If not, you're going to want to hear this. Elva Zona Hester Shue was found dead on January 23, 1897, in her log cabin home in Greenbrier, West Virginia. She was recently married just only 3 months to her new husband, Edward Shue. You see, her lifeless body was found by Andy Jones, a neighborhood child who ran errands for Elva pretty often. And when he found her, she was laying at the bottom of the stairs on the second landing. He noticed and stated that her eyes were wide open and her mouth almost looked like it was laughing. You see, this story has so many things that just don't add up from the beginning. So Edward had come to Andy's mother multiple times that day, wanting Andy's help with some errands and chores for Elva, saying that she was not feeling well. Now, Andy's mother thought that this was pretty odd with how many times Edward actually came to her that day wanting Andy's help. Upon finding the body, Andy rushes to his mother, and then Edward is contacted as he is a blacksmith in Greenbrier there, and he immediately rushes to the house. Now, something to note about Edward is he'd actually been married twice before, and both wives were found mysteriously dead. And from there, he rushes into the house. He moves his wife's body and for some reason changes her clothes into an older fashioned dress of high collar. And this is before the doctor can even get there. So the doctor, Dr. Knapp, gets there and he checks to see if maybe she is still alive. When he finds that she isn't, he deems it as the everlasting faint. The key to this story and solving this murder case was actually Miss Hester, Elva's mother. So after the whole funeral, takes place and everything, Miss Hester goes to bed that night and believes that she is having dreams. And the first night, she actually sees her daughter standing in her bedroom. Well, this continues on for a few nights, and the first 3 nights, her daughter didn't speak to her. But on the 4th night is when Elva spoke to her and let her know what had actually transpired and happened. It was so compelling and so real, and you could debate on whether it was actually a psychic dream or maybe she thought she was dreaming because of what she saw, that she confided in a brother-in-law. And based on what Miss Hester told him, he thought that there could be some concrete evidence or speculated that it could be true. So he started asking people around town, and his suspicions were confirmed. At this point, they hired an attorney. Now, this was very interesting as you are asking an attorney to solve this case based on the testimony of a spirit. The attorney that they secured was named John Preston, and he was well known and successful as an attorney. And he listened to this case and decided to take it. So for someone as successful for him, even with this being a spirit testimony, it was like this ain't no hill to climb for John Preston. So he ordered for the body to be exhumed. Now, this body was being exhumed on the witness of a spirit coming back and telling what actually happened to them. And this is where I am so impressed with West Virginia in this time. They agreed, and they let that body be exhumed. Now, what Elva actually told her mother in those experiences was that she did not fall down the stairs, that Edward had come home and she had made a very bare minimum kind of dinner, and there was no meat. He became angry, and she retorted, saying that there was plenty enough to eat, to where he actually grabbed her and broke her neck. Now, whenever they actually decided to go ahead and call in a doctor and re-examine this body, since Dr. Knapp actually didn't get to fully examine her with the dressing that she had on and just deemed it as the everlasting faint, he started noticing something. And he found all the signs of a broken neck. Actually, everything that Miss Hester described to them that the spirit of her daughter told her ended up being true. As the court at first was not going to take testimony of psychic or paranormal experience, After they were able to identify that every piece of information that Miss Hester testified was true, everything fell into place. At this point, Edward pretty well knew, since they hadn't arrested him yet and they were just keeping him close while they examined this body, that this was it. And this also brought some justice for those 2 previous wives who had lost their lives. So they go ahead and they get ready to take him in. He actually cooked everyone breakfast the morning before and was ready to go. He pretty well admitted to it, and he went with them to go to jail. It wasn't until Miss Hester actually testified in this case that we were able to understand a little more between if this was a dream or something she actually saw, when she actually stated in that testimony that she was awake as she was right now while she was testifying. Elva did not deserve what happened to her. But at the same time, I hope that through her story that it can help others to see the ability and the promise that something like paranormal investigation can have in these kind of situations. Because if it was even put in place and used in 1897, then that kind of gives us an idea that history doesn't have to end with just papers and archives. But maybe we can get some answers to some questions even beyond the grave. Stay curious, my souls.